Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video. And in this video, I'll be profiling an article from the economiccollapseblog.com titled Chaos Reigns in the Streets of America as an Epic Crime Wave Terrorizes the Nation. And this is just another signs of the times we're living in. The last days, really the last seconds of the last days, where all hell is going to break loose during Jacob's trouble. And it's going to be a free-for-all out here. Murder, pestilences, famines, martial law, and, ultimately nuclear missiles being fired to the ends of the earth during World War III. But I'm going to open it up with Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And this is Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus speaking, telling his disciples of some of the end time signs to look for, to know that they were living in the last days. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And when we go into that word iniquity in the Strongs, it's G458, anomia. And in the outline of biblical usage, it reads the condition of without law. And this is ultimately talking about this world not being governed by the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai. But as we're going to see in that article, these people in the United States of America and all across the planet are disregarding the laws of their government. They're seeing that these governments and these officials don't have their best interests at heart, so they're taking matters into their own hands. And then on top of that, you've got calls for defunding the police, which is just making crime that much more easy and prevalent out here because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. And because iniquity or lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And hey, throughout this article, we clearly see that the love of many is waxing cold. And it's only going to continue as we get closer and closer to the end. And it's going to get worse, especially as these economic conditions deteriorate. People lose their jobs, get kicked out of their houses. And due to inflation, really hyperinflation, they won't be able to afford the basic amenities for them or their loved ones. So somebody who seemed like an upstanding citizen is going to really show that dog in them. They're going to become criminals out here. Then on top of that, those people that are already criminals, as they see that, society's becoming more and more lawless, they're going to take complete advantage of it. If you were hoping that the United States would become a lawless society, you have now gotten your wish. Some of the numbers that I am about to share with you are just mind-blowing. For example, I had no idea that police in New York City were injured by criminals thousands of times last year. That's also another part of biblical prophecy. People disregarding their governments and the authorities that uphold the system, which we'll get later. All over the nation, law enforcement is losing control and violent criminals are getting the upper hand. We have never seen anything quite like this before, and I'm entirely convinced that this crime wave is only going to get worse as economic conditions deteriorate. Which, hey, back in Matthew chapter 24, I'm going to read verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. We're just in the beginning stages of things right now. Where was I at? Salakia. We have never seen anything quite like this before, and I'm entirely convinced that this crime wave is only going to get worse as economic conditions deteriorate. Even in our capital city, crime is completely and utterly out of control. If you can believe it, the number of carjackings in Washington, D.C. was up 97.9% last year. Residents of the District of Columbia paid the sixth highest amount on car insurance when compared to the 50 states in 2023, with an average annual full coverage rate of $2,756 last year, which amounts to nearly $230 a month, according to a report by Insurify. The report found that Washington, D.C. residents' car insurance premiums were 37% higher than the national average, which was $2,019 for a full coverage policy, as national auto insurance rates increased by 24% last year. And I've steadily seen my car insurance increase over the last couple of months. And I'm down here in New Orleans, which the carjackings, the robberies, thefts, the murders is on a high increase as well. Police data show carjackings in the nation's capital spiked by 97.9% in 2023, with 958 reported carjackings last year compared to 484 in 2022, with motor vehicle theft up 82% from 3,756 in 2022 to 6,829 in 2023. Vehicle theft in the greater Washington, Maryland, Virginia area also rose by 68% last year, according to the National Insurance Crime Bureau. Vehicle theft is even worse in some areas along the West Coast. In Oakland, approximately 1 out of every 30 residents had a vehicle stolen from them in 2023. And I know people in my immediate vicinity that have had their cars, broken into on more than one occasion. Robberies grew 38% last year in Oakland, according to police data. Burglaries increased 23%. Motor vehicle theft jumped 44%. Roughly 1 of every 30 Oakland residents had a car stolen last year, according to a San Francisco Chronicle analysis. On Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced he was taking action, deploying 120 California Highway Patrol officers to Oakland and the surrounding area to conduct a law enforcement surge operation. The aim to crack down on crime, including vehicle theft, retail theft, and violent crime. And also down here in Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry just issued a state of emergency due to the police shortages and the high crime rates, especially in New Orleans, and a call to get more officers down there. And I believe he also was talking about the possibility of using the National Guard. Other West Coast cities are also experiencing unprecedented crime waves. In Seattle, one restaurant has actually been broken into 5 times in the last 6 months. Hey, that's another common thing down here. Where I live, one restaurant, down the street from me, got broken into. They stole the whole cash register. And then, further up the street, another place got broken into. The sound of crashing glass has become too familiar at Sandia, a Mexican restaurant in Seattle's Laurelhurst neighborhood on Northeast 45th Street. As of today, now we have been broken into 5 times, said Nathan Yeager, the owner. In the surveillance video provided to King 5, you can see criminals break the front door with a crowbar, climb over the counter, steal the money from the till, and then sneak around while looking in every door for something to take. Of course, I could say the exact same thing about many cities on the East Coast as well. In New York City, Police officers are getting beaten at a record-setting pace. City cops are getting beaten at a record-setting pace, a disturbing and dangerous trend fueled by radical protests, an influx of criminal migrants, bail reform, anti-cop rhetoric, defund the police, and soft-on-crime prosecutors, experts told the Post. The number of cops hurt by the suspects surged 20% in 2022, with 4,724 uniformed officers suffered injuries in attacks compared to 3,933 in 2021. But law enforcement nightmare grew worse last year when 4,077 cops were hurt by suspects in just the first 9 months of 2023, on pace for a record-breaking 5,436 injuries, the latest NYPD stat shows. At this stage in our societal collapse, the criminals are not even afraid to attack the cops. Like I said earlier, that's also part of biblical prophecy, but this is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for that word sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And what did the author of that article, Michael Schneider, saying that, in that article, one of the reasons for cops getting attacked is what? Radical protesters and an anti-cop rhetoric calls to defund the police. And they have that saying, ACAB, or all cops are bastards, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, these people in the government, mayors, governors, senators, presidents, prime ministers, as well as the authorities like the police and the military that uphold the system. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Hey, everybody doing what they deem right in their eyes. At this stage in our societal collapse, the criminals are not even afraid to attack the cops. Iniquity abounding, contempt, violation of the law. It is so difficult to be a police officer these days. They literally blah, 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 put their lives on the risk for us every single day. Of course, the Biden administration has made the national crime wave significantly worse by allowing millions upon millions of migrants to come pouring over the southern border, which that's also by design. The powers that be, these elites, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, want to destabilize the U.S., bring out that chaos so then they can bring that order, getting everybody in line with this digital cashless society they want to roll out. That great RESET, where everybody is going to have their social credit score and their carbon credit score tied directly to their digital identification, which is going to be that RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT, the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18. And this migrant crisis would be one of the perfect, reasons to bring out a heavy military presence on the streets, bring in a state of martial law. The local authorities, even the National Guard can't handle it. We need to bring in the big boys, the heavy hitters. In fact, we just learned that police in the Big Apple have arrested a very, very violent migrant that shot a tourist in the leg after opening fire in Times Square. A teenage gunman burst into tears as he was hauled away in handcuffs for allegedly shooting a tourist in the leg after opening fire in Times Square. Jesus Alejandro Rivas Figueroa, 15, a migrant from Venezuela, was arrested by U.S. Marshals in Yonkers after nearly a day-long manhunt. NYPD Deputy Chief of Detectives Jason Savino called him a very, very violent suspect who recklessly fired a very large 45 caliber handgun in a crowded area of New York City. Love of many waxing cold. Skip past this part. Jump to this last little section over here. From coast to coast, our society is literally coming apart at the seams. In Alabama, thieves recently stole an entire 200-foot tall radio tower. A landscaper in Jasper, Alabama, was doing a property cleanup when the crew discovered that a 200-foot radio tower was missing. Brett Elmore, general manager of WJLX, said that every piece of the equipment at the radio tower site had been stolen and the wires cut out. This is going to get out eventually, so I might as well make it public before it does. Elmore wrote on Facebook, I have heard of thieves in this area stealing everything, anything, but this one takes the cake. This morning, my bush hog crew went down to a tower site we have. When they arrived, he called and notified me that not only was my building vandalized, but my 200-foot tower was gone, the radio manager wrote. If things are this bad now, what will our society look like once millions upon millions of people in this country become extremely desperate? And through the scriptures, through prophecy, we can give you those answers. This is back in 2nd Esdras chapter 15. I'm started verse 14. Woe! Destruction to the world and them that dwell therein. Because these times of Jacob's trouble is Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi judging you wicked people, especially the wicked of our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the true children of Israel, but are rebellious and refuse to return under your power for all the wickedness you've been committing. Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. Total chaos out here. And that one people fighting against another goes into many things. Race wars, which are going to take place. Nations rising against nation, as it said back in Matthew 24. Civil war, one political party against another. Conservative versus liberal. Left versus right. Class warfare with the poor and middle class going against the upper class. Political, another example of political warfare is the average everyday Joe going against those in the government. The list goes on. And swords in their hands. And especially in the United States of America, that modern day sword people are going to be swinging is that gun. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? A state of martial law. Due to what? A migrant crisis. Due to what? Civil unrest. Due to what else? Dis-ease X. Some pestilence out here, bringing another round of lockdowns. Hey, there's a multitude of things that could bring in, martial law and these cities being locked down. And the only people allowed in or out are those that have the correct identification. Hint, hint, that digital identification. Verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, houses shall be destroyed. And we're already seeing houses being destroyed with these different businesses getting broken into. And it's only going to increase. And men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. Food shortages, famines coming, people starving to death, as well as seeing their loved ones starve to death, and for great tribulation, economic downturns, one of these other many calamities Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi is going to bring to judge you people for the iniquity you're living in. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say